Hello and welcome to X Vlog episode number 11. I am your host, MrBooMStickXL. This is Double Barrel Gaming, your number one source for all of your Xbox news, reviews, and opinions. And on today's new video, I'm going to be asking one of the biggest questions so far in 2022, and that is, will From Software's Elden Ring be dropping into Xbox Game Pass day and date? Now, sure, is this an improbable scenario? I'd agree with you there. But gaming is a huge business, and the same conversations, folks, that we are having on social media platforms like Twitter are not the same conversations that are happening in the boardrooms at places like Microsoft and Bandai Namco, who in fact is publishing Elden Ring for From Software. Now, to me, this seems like a no-brainer and a match made in gaming heaven. But who wins in this unlikely partnership? Well, to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I believe both companies are poised to make huge financial gains in a deal this big. And as we have already been made aware of from numerous interviews with Phil Spencer and Aaron Greenberg, these studios that drop games into Xbox Game Pass day and date, well, they're paid handsomely. And with each deal comes different incentives. And some of those incentives that we have been made privy to is how many times a game is downloaded or how many players play said game on Xbox Game Pass. Well, in the case of Elden Ring, it has been projected that the title that is one of the biggest of this year is expected to move 4 million copies in its first 5 weeks. And that comes to us directly from a story I pulled from our good friends over at WCCFtech.com. And during a Q&A with investors in November of 2021, it has been clarified that they expect to move those 4 million copies across numerous platforms. And those platforms are PlayStation 4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and of course, PC. Now, as we know, and we have heard numerous conversations about games that are like Soul-like, they're a very niche type of title. They sell well, but to a niche-sized audience. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that we have a big picture of how these games actually sell. And I pulled the numbers on their last 3 biggest games From Software released. Now, the first one is a PlayStation 4 exclusive. It is also considered a cult classic. And of course, I'm talking about Bloodborne. And as of today's date, it has moved between 2 and 3 million copies in its lifetime being on the market. Now, the second one, and folks, this is a big one. Dark Souls 3 launched on March 24th of 2016. And in May of last year, both Bandai Namco and From Software announced that the game had sold over 10 million copies. And that is pretty big. Now, the one right after that, which I think is widely respected as one of their best works, is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Well, we learned last year that it shipped over 5 million copies, and that game released on March 19th of 2019. But I want to be crystal clear here about some of the numbers that I just mentioned. These are lifetime sales. And that's important because I want to stress that in some cases, it took years for them to come up with these impressive sale numbers based on, once again, a genre that's considered very niche. So let's talk about how this collaboration could in fact happen. Well, friend of this channel, Jeff Grubb, who is a writer over at GamesBeat and is someone that I trust enough to go based on his word, stated a few months ago on Twitter that Xbox, and I quote, Xbox has billions of dollars to spend on deals like this one for Game Pass. And he was referring to Marvel's The Avengers that was developed by Crystal Dynamics and published by Square Enix. Now, this becomes where it's very opinionated, so bear with me. It's safe to say, and we have heard this, that Amy Hood, who is the CFO of Microsoft, does in fact work closely with Phil Spencer. And I believe that if pitched properly, she would greenlight a monster Xbox Game Pass deal or a payout to Bandai Namco to have the year's biggest title launch on the service. Now, this is where I kind of start to ask the even bigger questions. How much is a day and date launch worth to both companies? Well, let's just say, for argument's sakes, that the Xbox One version and Xbox Series X and S versions are projected to move 1.5 million copies, and at the confirmed $60 price tag, that would net Bandai Namco $90 million from Xbox alone. But here's another question. Well, what is market mindshare worth? Well, I'm not a financial analyst, but I would say a heck lot more than $90 million, considering that Microsoft is a $2.5 trillion company. Well, if I was wearing the CFO hat just for a day, this is what I would do to lock up this deal. I would write a check for 2.5 times the $190 million that we just talked about, dropping $225 million down to Bandai Namco and having a back-end incentive that started after 5 million downloads, because simply the sheer amount of Xbox Game Pass subscribers has been rumored to have crossed 30 million after this holiday season. Now, 2.5 times, well, that's a big significant number. Now, I could not find what it cost to make this game, but it could be around there. And if they could garner that lump sum from Microsoft to get this into Xbox Game Pass, and let's say it covers their development costs and somehow you work in a little bit of advertising in there, well, that's a big win for the company, because we're not even talking about the sales that come the way of PlayStation 4, which has 115 million consoles out in the wild and over 15 million PlayStation 5s plus PC. So I think it would be a good deal. In my opinion, once again, I believe that this should be priority number one for Phil Spencer on a multitude of reasons, and stealing the conversation out of Sony, or away from Sony, I should say, which, by the way, has a monster first-party title releasing a mere 7 days before Elden Ring in Horizon Forbidden West. Well, again, in my opinion, the best way to handle this is to steal the spotlight away from Horizon by making this monster deal. And I say that because right now, Microsoft does not have a comparable first-party game releasing on the console. And because Game Pass is such a hot topic right now, even though Elden Ring is a multi-plat, a lot of people would think it as an exclusive to Xbox because they can download it for the price of quote-unquote free. But look, these are my opinions, and whether you agree with them or you don't, I think that Microsoft is in a great position to really shock the industry. Again, they don't have a Starfield, which would be on the magnitude size of something like a God of War or a Horizon Forbidden West. They don't have that right now. all of their titles are going to probably come towards the second half of the year, very similar to what we saw in 2021. So with all of this money that has been rumored to have been put or set aside for these big Xbox Game Pass deals, well, I'm going to be honest with you. We're early into 2022, and right now, one of the biggest games is Elden Ring. It is, people are really looking forward to this. So that's going to do it for X Vlog episode number 11. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button, consider subscribing to the channel, and also share this on social media. And one other favor, if you don't mind, please consider hitting the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the content that's coming in 2022. This is Mr. Boomstick signing out for Double Barrel Gaming, and I'll see you in the next video.